And good morning, America. I'm Eden Gordon-Hill. Welcome to the All-American Book Club, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very special treat for us this morning. You know what? Straight from the DMV, for all those who are tuning in at 105.9 FM News Talk in our nation's capital, we have Mrs. DC America 2020, JeanAnne Roberts, joining us this morning. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you. There's so much we got to talk about. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so blessed to have connected with you.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks to you. Well, we'll just throw out a thank you to your sister, Wendy Griffith at CBN, for also joining us here at the All-American Book Club. And so I'm excited to talk with you. We are talking about your book, It's Never Too Late to Find Your Crown. So I love this because for any of those who are looking, hey, you know what? Let me just say this. For the Young Hill staff members, for the women who are in their, 30s and 40s, wondering, what is their next season? What's their next journey, whether they attend church or not, this book is really good for them. I want to say that right now, because you open up every chapter with scripture. And you open up and talk, you're so vulnerable in this book. And it's not necessarily have to be a beauty queen. You don't have to necessarily have your master's degree. You are just on that journey that you are seeking out what is the best for me. And so I love this about your book. So let's talk about your book first. How did you come to write this? And obviously, for those who are tuning in on the YouTube channel, see you wearing your beautiful crown.
I just felt like God put it on my heart to write this book. I never thought I would write a book, and all my life experiences brought me to this point. And God really wanted me to share my testimony, because I feel like right now we're in a hopeless world, and also a world of confusion because God is missing.
Yes.
And my book, if you're looking for God, you will find him in my book.
Yes. Oh yeah, you nailed it for sure. Well, a couple things that really resonated with me as I was reading your book. We have a couple things in common. And so the first thing I want to say is I lived in DC for 20 some years and had worked on the Hill. I was a career girl. How far can I climb up that ladder, get to the top? But the other aspect that I sit there and really resonated with was the fact that you got married right around 40, as did I. My first marriage, no children. And, I had been waiting, and, you date, you kiss all those frogs and you're like, okay, when is my Prince Charming coming around? And it took for God to move me in a couple different areas out of the DMV to meet my husband and then to get married. And, I'll put it out there. He was 53 when we got married. He's 13 years older. He jokingly says to everybody, I was on the school bus waiting for my wife to be born. And, I sit there and say that there's a lot of truth in that. But I want to talk about that. We have so many similarities in that regard. Let's talk about that specific area of waiting for the right person and that crown that God gives you as you are waiting, and then as you become that spouse.
Oh my gosh, that just that just made me want to cry, because sorry, I'm such an ugly crier, but
no, you're good. You know how many people come on my show and we all just sit here and cry? Go ahead.
I know, it just brought back so much heartache, like really traveling the world looking for my husband. And I felt like, that I wasn't, people didn't even think I felt like men, I don't know what it was. I think I was so desperate desperate for love, that I just ran everyone off. And but it was actually a blessing. And I want people to know that if somebody does run away, it's not the person God has for you. I really had so many heartaches, and I kind of, in my book, turned it around and made it more delightful, because at the time it did feel like it was, I was so heartbroken. But now I look back on it and I do think, it's kind of like God has a sense of humor, and he truly works in mysterious ways. And all those other people that I thought, I tried my best to make them fit into that puzzle, but they weren't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. And I finally, like, I decided, after traveling the world as a flight attendant, um, dating men in all different countries, and it just, nobody was right. No one was right. And so I went on Match.com, and
Mm.
I my husband, he contacted me because I'm old fashioned. So I just waited for the right guy to contact me. And he wasn't the first guy. He was, after 2 years of doing Match.com, he was probably the 50th guy. But the good news was the guys that I was meeting on there, on the match, they were gentlemen. And I was like, okay, I'm on the right path. And yeah, when I met him, it truly was love at first sight. And I met him at Starbucks. And when he stood up, and he was 6'4", and he was muscular, he worked out every day. And it was just, but I also knew his resume. Like, he had, he was 2 years younger than me. He'd never been married. He was Catholic, so he was in the Christian arena.
Yeah.
And it just was right. He was the right guy. And I'm going to tell everyone out there that this, God really let me know he was the right guy, because when we were getting married, I did not realize this, and he did not realize this, but we were writing the invitations for our wedding, and his dad's name is Jean, and his
Yes.
mom's name is Anne, and my
Yes.
name is JeanAnne. So
Yes.
that was true confirmation that this was truly my Prince Charming that I had been, searching the world for. But God, it was just God's timing.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. So I want to talk about the crowns that you were able to receive as you were growing up. And then 30 some years later, it just went away. And then all of a sudden, Mrs. DC America comes along. If you could share that journey, because there's so many different highs and lows. There's so many different things that you went through to now wear the crown that you have on. But also, I want to take it to the next level. That crown that God gives us, that we don't necessarily see, that we don't necessarily adopt, that we don't necessarily believe in, but it's there. So let's first talk about your journey, and then let's talk about the faith aspect.
Okay. When I was 17, there was a fair pageant called Miss Magnolia Fair. And my sister Wendy doesn't talk about this, but she was also a beauty.
I saw you put that in there and I started laughing.
I know. So she actually, my mom competed for Miss Magnolia Fair when she was in high school. She did not win the crown, but of course I think she should have. My mom is still absolutely beautiful to me. And so my sister won Miss Magnolia Fair. She's 11 months older than me. And so after that, I said to my mom, I said, I want to run for Miss Magnolia Fair. And my mom was a little bit, she didn't want me to run because if I didn't win, she was just worried, uh, what if?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just loved everything beauty. And, I was a majorette, I was a dancer, and I just thought, I'm just going to go for it. And so I won that crown. And I didn't realize at the time that God is the bestower of crowns. I was too
Mm.
young to understand. And
Yes.
the next year was Miss Mingo County. And so I thought, well, I want to run for that. And it was a little bit more difficult because you had to have a talent.
Mhm.
So I did a dance routine to Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
And
I love it. I love it.
right. And that really, I didn't realize at the time that that was really going to be the theme of my life,
Yeah.
is that, I was going to fail so many times. And then finally, you know, at the end, victory would prevail.
Mm.
So when I ran for Miss Bingo County, um, and I won that pageant. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, wow, this is really easy. Like, I'm like, this is something I found that I'm like, I'm really good at. I'm really good at winning these crowns. So then from that pageant, it went to the state level. And at that level, I had no idea what I was getting into because this was a fierce competition. I mean, a lot of these girls had been training since kindergarten
Right,
to,
right. Yeah.
to win this crown. And I had no idea. I was so innocent and naive. So when I went there, when I didn't even place, it was actually, and I hate to use that word devastating, but at that time, you know, when you fail, you think it's final. So
Right.
to me, it was devastating. And then to see the worst part was my mom, like seeing her reaction. Just, I thought, she was disappointed in me.
Mhm.
And, but really now looking back, I see that was her dream also.
Yeah.
And she was living through me. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
when I lost that crown, it was like she lost that crown.
Yeah.
And so we never spoke about pageantry again for 36 years.
So I wondered about that in your book. I wondered if that was, I saw that part and I sat there and said, why 36 years? Why did they never talk about that? But you are now saying that just you wanting to really make your parents proud, make your mom proud, and to hold that up and to not diminish her dream, but you didn't realize that at that time.
Yeah, at that time, I thought she was just so disappointed in me.
Right.
And, because I was 18, I didn't realize,
Yeah.
you know, and then it was just so heartbreaking. I just buried that dream. I mean, even my husband never knew I won 2 crowns. I don't even have those crowns. I
Mhm.
don't, I think my mom just, you know, got rid of them at some point. And, I
Yeah.
wish I had them now, but
Yeah.
it's, it was such a buried dream. And it was so, God, what I want people to know out there is that even when you've forgotten your dreams, God doesn't forget. And he's going to bring you that dream when in his timing.
Yes.
So the amazing part of this story is I was, you know, here in the suburbs and I had 2 kids that were 9 and 12. I was 55. And I was an older mom, obviously, to have a 9 and 12-year-old at 55. And I told my husband, I said, I really want to pursue my dream as modeling. And when I was a flight attendant, I was with a modeling agency, and I never really got to pursue that 100% because I was always flying off to, Paris or all these
Yeah.
really amazing places. But at the same time, it was like I couldn't juggle both of those. So
Right.
my kids were at an age where I was like, okay, now I can really, pursue this dream. And so we found the right photographer. We went to New York. I got the pictures, came back, and then I saw a job on for Fox 5 for
Yeah.
the holiday fashion.
I
Uh,
love it. I love
yeah.
it.
And so I went in thinking that it was just a modeling job,
Yeah.
but the director of Mrs. DC America at the time, she was looking for people to run for Mrs. DC in 2020. And she looked at me and said, you are going to be my next Mrs. DC America. And
Yeah.
it took my breath away because
Yeah.
that dream was buried.
Yeah.
So,
It
it was,
it brought it to the forefront for
it
you.
did, it brought my dream back to life.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I said, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I not gonna like I knew that if I ever had the opportunity to compete
Yeah.
for a state pageant again,
Yeah.
I was gonna win this thing. I was like, I knew what it felt like to lose. And also I felt like all my life experience had prepared me for this moment to win
So,
this crown.
you mentioning that you were 55 when this is all taking place. And that really impressed me. I'm sitting here, I fully disclose to most people, they're like, don't tell me your age. I'm 47. And I sat there and you inspired me from the standpoint of, wow, I can only imagine what God has in store for me when I am 55.
Right.
And that's the thing, though. I want you to share. We have 3 minutes left in this segment, but I want you to share with our audience, for those who are in all walks of life, the inspiration behind you at 55 doing this and not letting anybody tell you age is going to be an issue or whatever, and making your proud profession motherhood and being at home for your husband and your family. I want you to zero in on that for me in the final 3 minutes that we have left.
All right. Okay. I want to tell everyone out there that I truly believe destiny belongs to the underdogs.
Mm,
And that for me, like, it's always so emotional when I think of all these things, but um, God used all my life experiences to prepare me for this moment. And so don't think because you're of a certain age that you can't achieve something. A lot of times, like age, age is like a powerful thing. Like you have so much knowledge. I believe you can move mountains, and I think a lot of people need to get off that couch, get
yes.
out of retirement, and
Yes.
go take everything that they have learned and
Yeah.
use it to help, our communities. And, I think that we, the older generations, like we, God wants to use us for great and mighty things. And
Yes.
I do believe that beauty is a number. I mean, their age is a number, and I think you can be beautiful at all ages. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she's flawless. She's like perfect. But I do believe that, someone of like my age, like 55 and up, I think that you can still have beauty. I think that society says that you can't have beauty after a certain age, but I'm not going to believe that. I really believe that God at every age is beautiful. And
Yes.
that, you know, just for the audience out there, that, just because you fail once or twice or 100 times, failure isn't final. And it's
Right.
never too late to find your crown.
Absolutely. In the final minute we have left, one thing you mentioned about beauty and, in the eyes of the beholder, I want to say this. One thing that I noticed, Pamela Anderson, who, a lot of us from the 70s and 80s and 90s remember her from, I believe, Baywatch. And she is now on a campaign to really, I don't need to wear makeup. I'm not going to wear makeup, and the natural beauty of her doing that, which speaks volumes because I'm not sure the exact age, but she's in the 50 to 60 range now. And
Yeah.
to be able to do that and have the confidence to do that. I'm sitting here being raised by my mother, who was born in 49, and she says, you never go to the mailbox without makeup on. And I'm sitting here and I always make sure that every day I dress up because it's for me. It's not for anybody else. It's for me because I feel confident and dressing up and fashion and colors and making myself presentable. But on the other flip side, Pamela Anderson and those in that age group, if she is more confident in not wearing makeup, then what's the problem with that? There's no issue on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that natural beauty is the best beauty.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I have more makeup on than normal for the podcast, but
Yeah.
I think that, everybody has a different level of what they think,
Yes. Yes.
is
It's
beautiful.
not like we don't need Instagram. We don't need social to dictate and tell us when we're beautiful and when we're not. And
Yes.
going
Yes.
back to your book, It's Never Too Late to Find Your Crown. I want to say that for all of those out there, this is a great book to pick up. So whether it is Christmas holiday, stocking stuffer, or whether it's kicking off the new year with finding brand new you, new year, this is a great book to really inspire those who are at any age, any steps on their journey, correct?
Yes, and I do want to say that I really want to focus also not just on the never too late generation, but also the failure isn't final generation, which is the younger teenagers and
Yes,
20 somethings, because there's so much confusion in the world. And my book really explains a lot, just biblically. If you follow the biblical laws, if you follow the 10 Commandments, it's really going to guide you to where God is calling you to be.
absolutely. On that final note, I'm so thankful to have you here, JeanAnne Roberts, Mrs. DC America 2020. There's more to come from her. Until then, you guys, we'll be right back with our next segment. Thank you so much for joining. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.